Come join Libby, Molly, and Tiffany, the ladies of Consignment Chats, where we talk about all things consignment.
Hey, y'all.
Hi.
How are you ladies doing?
Great.
Okay.
Love Fridays. Oh, sorry.
You what?
I love being with you guys.
I know. Girl time. So look, this is going to be even more fun because we are really switching it up for episode 26. Going to twist it around. This is going to be C Chat's Unscripted.
Oh, boy.
And by unscripted, I mean, as the moderator, of course, I know a little bit of where I'm headed with this show, but you guys got no clue. So let me put my devil horns on.
Yep. Oh, boy.
And let's just have a fun, unscripted chat with these three ladies who we all love each other so much. And let's let other people get to know us. So one thing I was thinking about this morning was, we did our initial posts on the website about who we are, kind of where we came from. We're going to do a quick little kind of where were you born, where you live now, quick little thing for those that have never gone on the website. And if you haven't, shame on you, cchats.com, consignmentchats.com.
Do your naughty teacher with the glasses. Do your naughty...
I need a ruler.
Naughty student.
My ruler's over there. I'd have to.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to get up and go, and then you'd see my business on top, party on the bottom going on if I had to stand up. So, what do you do? But anyway, we're going to start by just a little bit about yourself, kind of, I don't know, just follow my lead and we'll go, and I'll start with it. And I'll say, my name is Molly Liska, and I was born on Hilton Head Island. Well, actually, I was born in Savannah, Georgia, because when I was born, there was no hospital on Hilton Head Island. So we had to go over to Georgia for me to be born. So I was actually born in the state of Georgia, but lived on Hilton Head Island all my life. Got married on Hilton Head. And then my husband whisked me away to upstate South Carolina. We lived in Philadelphia for 11 years. And as hard as that was for this Southern girl, I thank my blessed stars because of those 11 years in Philadelphia, I met Libby, who is a ride or die forever and ever friend. And had I not been dragged up into the bitter cold, I would have never met her. So after 11 years, we came back down south. I know, little tear.
I know,
and
right?
I live in Greensboro now, and I have always worked with young children. Midlife crisis. Libby opened her business. We were good friends then and pulled me in. And
Well, your midlife crisis, not mine.
Okay, well, I am a little older. But
I'm having mine right now. So, all right, go ahead.
I had mine back then. Didn't want to necessarily work with young children anymore. Got pulled into Consignment right as it was opening. Fell in love with working with Libby. Anybody who works with a boss who appreciates your ideas and listens to you, doesn't always agree and do them, but respectfully listens, will understand why I love working for that woman, because we have a mutual respect for each other, and she doesn't always go with my ideas, but it's nice to be heard. So that's what I did. Took a little sidetrack, moved back down south, and I'm still able to work with Libby. And I love it. That's a little bit about me and what I'm doing and where I came from. Who's next? Tiffany, tell me about you.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
Where were you born?
I was born in Elyria, Ohio. And fun story about my parents, how they met. My father was my mom's high school English teacher. It was his first job out of college. So he was only 6 years older than her, but he was a teacher at her high school. And so that was...
I might have to tell my story then. Okay, go ahead.
That was kind of scandalous back in the day.
Of course.
And, so they both grew up in Lorraine County, Ohio, and that's where I was born. And then as my parents were getting established with their careers and stuff, and my mom went back to school because she dropped out of college because she got pregnant with me, and then she went back to school when I was 8 years old. Anyway, we moved around different towns in Ohio. We lived in Akron, Ravenna, and Twinsburg is where I spent most of my youth. And we moved to Virginia when I was 13 because she got a job my mom got a job as a lawyer with the Department of Justice.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up in Virginia and got married and had a son and then got a divorce. And I met my current husband on Match.com. And if looked at the first video, you know that we had a Civil War wedding with him because he was a Civil War reenactor, and he had 2 kids, and we blended our families together. So all 3 boys lived with us, and I wasn't really planning on children at all, and I ended up with 3. So and then when I met him, he lived in Maryland, and he couldn't leave Maryland because of his custody agreement, so we moved to Maryland. So I'm in Maryland right now. We've been in Middletown, Maryland ever since then, but we are planning a move, and we are moving in a few weeks to Hagerstown, which is not too far away, but
How far is it? I don't think I ever asked you how far your new house is from your
it's
current
about
one.
35 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's farther than I thought. Okay. Okay.
It's not that far, but we both still have jobs in Frederick, Maryland that we need to go to. And so it'll increase it will increase that commute maybe about 20 minutes because of the
Okay.
direction that just going to. So
Yeah.
but there's a whole story about the house which I could get into, but I won't at this time. But that's
Awesome.
that's my story.
Awesome. Libby, where were you born?
I was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So most of my family is there and still there. Just a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles and a really, big extended family growing up. And it was great. And I grew up in the country, Moscow, Pennsylvania. Well, not even in Moscow, Pennsylvania, outside of Moscow, Pennsylvania, like literally like a pond and cows in my backyard, but close to the city of Scranton, like 10, 15 minutes. And just a great childhood, great parents. Parents were business owners. My mom owned a hair salon for the past, a little less than 35 years. And my dad helped her with the business behind the scenes. And she ran it day to day. So I did grow up in a family business, and my dad worked different jobs, through those years to support us. And really cool. And then I went to school in Scranton because, fun fact, my dad worked at the University of Scranton. So I got free tuition and I got scholarships to a couple other colleges. But my father knew how much I wanted a Volkswagen Beetle. So he bribed me to stay in Scranton, and 17-year-old me decided that was okay, I'm going to stay. And it was great. It was wonderful, wonderful education, wonderful school. I was very grateful to go for free.
And you got a Beetle.
And I got a Beetle out of the deal.
What color was it?
A nightmare.
What color was it?
It broke down. It was yellow. It was bright yellow. Maybe I have to post a picture. Do have a picture of me, I think, in my graduation cap from high school next to my Beetle with my dad. I think we should put that on Instagram, don't you think?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then went to grad school at Penn State, got a scholarship, was a teaching assistant. So made my way that way, did a lot of river testing, a lot of environmental things. That was my life. Scranton is very affected by acid mine drainage, which I don't know if you guys have ever seen acid mine drainage.
Mm-mm.
So basically it is the water backwashes up out of the mines, and Scranton was a big mine. That was a big mining area, and it polluted the Lackawanna River. So there are areas of the Lackawanna River that are covered, every rock, every tree is covered in rust. It looks like something out of a sci-fi film. So I did a lot of work with that. And that was I was very passionate about it. And when I was in grad school, I was a teaching assistant. I was in the microbiology lab with my pipettes and my petri dishes. And that's what I did. And that's how I met my husband, my now ex-husband, but we were together for many, many years. And that's how we met. He was one of the students in my class, which is why I said, Tiffany, I'll have to tell my story. Yeah, he was one of the students in my class. And he kept asking me out, and I kept saying, no, I'm the teacher. Like, I grade your stuff, even though he's 6 years older than me. So he was much older than me, but I was the teacher. So when the semester was over, he's like, okay, would you go out with me now? And I said, yes. So, we built a life together, moved to the Philadelphia area, lived in Albany for a while, have 2 wonderful children together. And now I'm in the Lehigh Valley. I'm kind of having a little bit of a midlife crisis, seeing where I want to go with things. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Nice. Nice. So I didn't get into my married life with my husband because that's a whole episode in and of itself.
Oh my gosh, you have one of the best stories ever.
We'll tell that another time. But because we're talking about our youth, I got a question for y'all. What was your first job? We're all now in the consignment business, but what was your first job?
Newspaper delivery person.
Newspaper delivery person. Did
My
you
very
do that?
first job in
How
high
old-
school.
How old were you?
Yeah, I was in high school. I was like, I think maybe a junior in high school.
Okay.
And I literally had to walk the route with the big bags of Washington Posts, on my head and throwing them at houses and stuff. And
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I was
then-
going to ask your mode of transportation.
Yeah,
But
well, I
now
walked most days, and then on Thursdays, because they had a heavy real estate section on Thursdays, my dad would go and drive in our pickup truck, and I would walk behind the car because I couldn't carry the papers, they were so heavy, so they were just in the back of the open car, and I would walk behind the car while he slowly drove through the neighborhood. And this was at the crack of dawn, like before dawn, because he had a job teaching in Maryland. We lived in Virginia, and he in Fairfax County, Virginia, but he taught in Prince George's County, Maryland at high school. And you know how early high schools start. So we had to do this before he went to school
So that
and
he could
before I
get-
went to school. So it was really early. And
Dads are the best, aren't they?
I'm telling you, that's daddy
he did
love.
that with me on Thursdays and Sundays because Sunday was always the big,
Always the big one.
big paper too. Yeah.
Yeah. Livy, what was your first job?
I when I was 13, for a brief period of time, I worked at the Italian restaurant across the street in the kitchen and bussing tables. But my first real job was actually working for my parents and my dad taught me to do the accounting, the weekly books and
Ooh,
stuff. Yeah.
That's a good lesson to learn. How old were you when you started doing that?
God, I really can't remember. I was in high school, maybe 10th grade.
Okay.
Maybe 10th grade. Yeah.
Hmm.
And do you know every job I got since then, including the environmental ones, was because I knew how to do that.
Really?
And that was what people were impressed by.
What a great thing for your dad to have taught you.
weird?
Wow.
And who would have guessed? Like, who would have guessed? Because that was never my field of study or anything.
It's
like
still
that.
not my field of anything, which is why I married a banker. I don't do numbers. I don't do math. I leave that all up to him. So, yeah. So my first job was working at the chocolate plantation on Hilton Head, wrapping little chocolate mints that the Marriott put on the pillows of their guests. And they would order in bulk these hand-done chocolate mint discs that had the Marriott logo, and we would sit at the end of the conveyor belt as they got poured and came off the dryer and wrap them in gold paper.
Oh my gosh,
And
that's
put them
so
in the
fun.
boxes so they would get shipped to the. So my girlfriends and I, it was the one job we could work for Mr. and Mrs. Sieber, who were members of our church. It was a cute little shop, and we eat the chocolate, But it was the
Wow.
one job at 13 that we could sit and do for a couple of hours a day. So there were like 3 of us girls that rotated, my friends, and we would go in and wrap mint. So you'd put like, if one had an air bubble, you're like, oh, well, that one can't be packaged, and you
Quality control at its
quality control. But they were the sweetest couple, and so that was my first job at the chocolate plantation, where they handmade all their chocolates.
I got the most exercise with my first job than all of us.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, for
you
sure.
absolutely did, for
And
sure.
it's probably the most physical job I've ever had in my life, that job. Yeah.
There's something that feels good about physical labor. Like when I'm sitting all day,
I get
I get a
antsy.
little depressed. I feel like I can't, like, I think that's why I enjoy painting and the refab part of my business so much, is because I'm up and I'm doing something and I can see the finished product, right?
Mhm.
Oh, there's something so satisfying about that. Whereas consignment, it just keeps coming in. It's like the post office, right? It keeps coming in and going out and going in and going out. And it always
Don't
looks the
you feel
same.
like I feel like my parents, and maybe yours too, they instilled such a work ethic in me that I failed to pass on to my children. No, no, I mean,
Me
I
too.
just feel like, it just doesn't it just doesn't go through the generations like it did. But I just had,
Agree. But I'm not sure that's a parenting issue as it is just a cultural issue.
I
It's
think it is
hard because
cultural.
I think all of us wanted to instill that and attempted to instill that, but it's hard to fight the entire masses when you're trying to instill that.
well, there's so many other distractions in life now.
Right. Right.
We
Which I
didn't
think
have
makes
all
sense.
those. We had to like work, school, home. I mean, that was like, there wasn't all this stuff. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Here's
actually, Molly and
another.
we were just talking about that yesterday, because I'm like, I'm trying to think how to say this. Like, I go all in. I go all in until I just burn out and crash and just, it's my personality. It is part of who I am. I've tried to change it, but it's just not me. And, my dad is 100% like that. My mom was like, you're just like your father. And my son is completely like that. Like, the three of us, it's so weird to see that through the generations. Like, I'm watching my dad and he does it, and now I'm watching my son and he does it, and I'm like, oh man.
Wow.
We are just
Love it.
intense. Sometimes we're intense. Yeah,
It's not a bad thing. It's got a lot of good things about it.
it has good and bad. It has good and
Mhm.
bad. Yeah.
As does everything, right?
Yeah.
As does everything. All right. So we were talking about our youth. I got one more question to line up that kind of goes with this. How would your 10-year-old self react to what you're doing now? So mine would say, what the heck? You're not on a horse?
Mhm.
Come on, man. Because I thought I was always going to be with horses. What would your 10-year-old self, Libby, I'm going to start with you, react to what you're doing today?
Mine would say you did it.
I love it.
Mine would say you did it, because I always, always, always felt the drive to have my own business. I mean, I did, I had a cookie baking business in high school, so I could buy my skis, my first pair of skis. And like, I was always doing things like that. Like, it was always like I wanted to work for myself. And I think my 10-year-old self would be like, you did it. Oh my God.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Tiffany, what would your 10-year-old self react to what you do now?
Oh, it's hard, but I feel like maybe she'd say, where are all the animals? Like, because there should have been, I always thought I'd work with lots of animals. Like, I'd have a farm or something, or a rescue group. Like, I would have been taking in every stray of whatever, I always thought I'd be doing all this animal stuff, but it didn't happen. So,
Oh,
Oh, well, you do have quite a few pets.
you
I
do.
do, I do, and I would have more if it wasn't for my husband.
That would be mine too. All right, I'm going to move on to something a little different real quick. Your favorite part of your work day? Crickets are chirping, friends. Crickets are chirping.
I love when I get to talk to Molly about, and I'm totally talking about my business now, not about C chats, because C chats is the highlight. I mean, this brings me so much joy and so much fulfillment that is definitely number one. But besides that, in my business, it's talking to Molly and kind of strategizing and coming up with new ideas. And that's definitely my favorite part of the business, is like changing direction and how can we do this better. And I just love all the creativity and ideas. And
Nice.
Yeah.
So my work day has could have up to 3 different jobs involved in it. So, depending on the day. So my favorite part of the work week is this right here, is, recording things with you guys, and even when we have our meetings, I just love it. I love, because I work solo so much in my life, that I love this. But in a general, like, everyday work day, I love shipping. I love wrapping the orders up, and and processing that. And plus shipping means there were sales. So
True.
so like last night, I only had one package just wrap. It's like, so, it does get a little like overwhelming on those days when you have like 6, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot for me, and that's a lot to do, and you start stressing a little bit. But I love it because the more shipping and more sales, so I just love that.
I need your perspective, because let me tell you, I break out into a sweat when I'm shipping. Like I'm like, get it done. How am I going to get it done?
Well, I don't have as much as you, so I can be calmer about it.
Yeah, but if you keep that attitude and it carries through with you as you grow, I mean, how phenomenal is that?
Right.
I always felt like that. Like I never, I need to be more like Tiffany with shipping for sure. How about you, Molly?
I don't have any emotions towards shipping, since that we're talking about. It's just something I do, but I get really excited each day when I'm checking stuff off my list. Just a feeling of accomplishment, no matter what that is. When I check it off, that is the happiest time. My probably favorite is when I can be creative. I mean, I love creativity. So when I am doing, in working on posts and creating content, that's my happy place. But I really love checking off, which kind of goes into my next question, because this is also what motivates me during the day, is my list and checking my list. So I want to ask you guys, how do you motivate yourself during your workday if you get in a slump? I have to look at my list and check and go, okay, I can get this done. I can do these things today. I know I can do it. Sometimes, though, I do have to pick up the phone and call Libby and say, okay, help me. I'm in a slump. Pick me up. And she'll go, all right, get it done. What are you doing? But do you have any tricks that you do to motivate yourself during your workday?
Since we met with Holly, and I changed my office to upstairs in my home, I just go into my office, and that's my workspace, and I just work. Like I don't spend much time in the rest of the house anymore, unless I'm, doing something with the family.
Right.
So, or cooking, or, laundry, all that stuff. So I just kind of go into my office. If I really get in a slump, of course, I call Molly and be like, help. It's good to have an accountability partner or somebody that can do that for you. I think Holly talked about having an accountability partner and how important that is, especially when you work solo.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need one of those. Yeah, I do, because I definitely have slump periods during the day. And then what I end up doing is as the evening goes on, because I do work through the evening, most evenings. I work pretty much, from the morning I sit here till nighttime. So what motivates me is like that looming bedtime hour, like, coming. And so I seem to be most productive in the last, between like 9 and 11, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like running out of day. And so then I just start getting it. And I want to change that. I need to get better about getting more stuff done earlier in the day, so I can actually have more time free in the evenings. We've talked about making some changes when we get to the new house, like about how things are, because I will, like right now, even if my husband goes to bed before me, he's right across the hall. I can hear him in there, is snoring or whatever. Or if he's his office is next door. So, we're all right up here together. So it's like that sense like he's nearby. In the new house, he's going to be 2 floors up from me. And I'm going to feel very alone, I think. And So we've talked about how I need to change it so I can finish earlier in the day so I can go up with him and we can spend some time together. So
That's where you have to set your carrots that you earn, set your little goals. That's what I do when I know I want to have some free time. Like if I know I want to go get a pedicure on Friday, but I got to get X, Y, and Z done before, that's my carrot. Make that time your carrot. And then you go, I'm going to get this done so that I can have that. And I find if I do it, I enjoy whatever that is so much more.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And I
much.
mean, there really is a power to putting it on paper or in or in your calendar. When I say I'm done at 3:00 and I'm going to go visit my friend, that's it. My work gets
Done
done.
is
And
done.
I'm done at 3:00 and I feel good and I take the time, and there's something about just putting it down that works.
I love checking my list, man.
yeah, I can't imagine ever being done with my day at 3:00. But I also start a little later than you guys. But that's the problem too. It's a vicious cycle because I keep going to bed later, getting up later. It's like I have to change all that.
Well, there's a little something to work on.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch that video again with Holly.
With Holly, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's one of those worth revisiting multiple times.
Yep.
So I have so many other questions, but I don't want this episode to run too long, but we didn't even get beyond our youth. And I got many more questions to get into our lives. So we're going to have to do this again.
All right.
And we're going to have separate of these C-Chats unscripted episodes that we plug in every here and there so that we can get deeper into who we are and what we do. What do you think?
Cool.
Sounds fun. It's like hanging out with my girls.
I
love
know.
it.
And I
love
thought
it.
we need to have one of these to throw out there so that people can just get to know us. And I apologize for my pinging mail that keeps coming through.
Oh,
Are
is
y'all
that
getting
you?
that?
Is that you?
Yes, and my notifications are off. I went back and checked them.
I wish it was pinging sales. Cha-ching,
Me
cha-ching.
too. I don't know why that's happening. But anyway, guys, listen. This was a fun episode, very different than our scripted. Loved it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, that little bell. Give us some comments, give us some feedback. Let us know what you want to know. Maybe you have some questions for our next unscripted that you want to know about us. Throw them out there.
Oh boy.
So if you want to find out other ways to connect with us, go to consignmentchats.com. And that will give you all the different places you can find us and be a part of our crazy little lives. So until next time, ladies.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining Libby, Molly, and Tiffany, the ladies of Consignment Chats, as we talked about all things consignment. To learn more and keep chatting, find Consignment Chats on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and Instagram.